Thank you guys for joining me. You've reached another episode of Nikki at Night, and I am your host, Nikki Haywood. Tonight we have a wonderful, wonderful episode. It's called Creating Safe Spaces for Our Black Men. I have three special guest panelists with me tonight, and I will let them introduce themselves. But stay tuned. It's a wonderful discussion that you don't want to miss. And anyone who wants to
All right.
start, go
All right.
ahead.
Go ahead, Marlon.
Hey, so what's up? I'm Marlon Sparks. I am the host of the Pandemonium podcast. I started that a few months back. Pretty much a lot of different topics. Started it back in June. I am ex-Army, 16 years, medically retired. Live in the San Antonio area. I'm currently working as an IT contractor for the Air Force. Church home is shout out to Kingdom Life Christian Ministry, San Antonio, Texas. My pastor is Apostle Tyrone McCreary. Married to a beautiful woman named Stephanie. 4 children. One's in the Air Force, 25, 24, 24-year-old lives in Dallas. And I have 17-year-old and a 14-year-old lives here with us to go to Johnson High School, involved in everything, just about feels like it. But I'm excited to be a part of this panel and excited for this discussion.
All right, I'll go. My name is Heath Muhammad. I'm an executive director for HM Counselor. I'm a therapist here in the central Texas area. My base camp is in Round Rock, where I do in-service therapy. I'm also a director of mental health with the Man in Me Foundation, founded by, I'm blanking right now,
Isaac.
but yeah, I founded by Isaac Rowe. And it's a thing where he gets men together, and he actually creates a safe space for men to be comfortable. He also does a parenting group as well to help men develop to be better dads. He just had a daughter and me dance, I think over the past weekend, and I think that turned out pretty good. I'm finally an empty nester. I have 3 children. My youngest just went off to Texas A&M. So I'm trying to figure out what that's like. Been a father for 25 years. My oldest is 25. So trying to figure it out.
All right. My name is Eric Bird. I am an Austin native. I am a consultant by trade. So I consult in local government policy, nonprofit organizations, structuring, fundraising on both the local and national level. And I'm also on the board of Man and Me that was funded by Isaac Rowe, and we founded by Isaac Rowe, and we help to strengthen fathers in order to strengthen families. And I'm also the president of the Black Professional Alliance here in Austin. And what we do is we support Black professionals in and around Austin, providing opportunities for networking, collaboration, and those sorts of things. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. So let's get right into it. Again, I thank you guys for joining me in this wonderful discussion that needs to be had. I think it's important to get the message out from people around our age. I won't say our ages, but our generation, I guess you could say. So I want to start off with. So society often places expectations on men to be emotionally strong, right? So how do you challenge and navigate these expectations while still staying true to your authentic self? And anyone can answer.
Whew. Whew.
That's a great question because society is saying, it's a great question because society is telling you to be a certain way. And being that way is not even beneficial for us because we'll hold all that stuff in. And then there's this saying that I only talk to a bottle of Patron. So we start to have those negative behaviors because of that. And we need to be able to create a safe space even for ourselves and not wait for anybody else to create it. But we can start that with our core group of brothers, our core group of people that we hang around with. And we can demand and say that this is going to be a safe space. We don't really have to wait for anybody to give that to us. We have to create that for ourselves. And it looks different for different folks, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man, that's a deep question. I think, it's kind of like you said, we all, as far as like when in my generation, we were not allowed to have, we were not allowed to express every emotion. The number one expression that we could have was anger. Anger, maybe a little bit of frustration. Um, you fall. I remember if I fell, hey, dry your tears. And so it took me years to really, when you don't have like a good teacher at this thing, you have to kind of figure it out along the way, right? So on top of my upbringing, raising the projects, hood, everybody was hard and tough, just about. And then I joined the military. So upbringing plus the military, the army, and back then they couldn't care less about how you felt either. And so really just trying to figure out how to deal with all of my emotion and to express it in a healthy way, without going to the patrol and so on and so forth. It was definitely tough at the beginning, but it like you said, sir, it definitely helps to have a core group who was willing to go there with you. And it's funny because I realized the more I talk to those who are in my core group, they start to talk to me in return. And I'm thinking this is going to be a session for Marlon, but it ends up being a session for both of us, or all three of us. And so it's black men just learning that balance, and then like I said, finding that group of people who's willing to listen and to give you that advice that you need and let you be your authentic self. You know what I'm saying? If tears flow, it's gonna flow, but nobody's gonna cry on you because you're crying. So it definitely helps to have people who are in your circle to help you kind of navigate those emotions.
Yeah.
And so would you say that, go ahead, Eric, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I completely agree with what these gentlemen have said. It's definitely important to cultivate, these circles and spaces and put yourself in places that already accept you. What I've, and I can also, relate to Mr. Sparks in not having an example. And so, in not having an example, what I've had to do is build my own framework for what a man is. And what I realize is, a lot of it has to do with integrity, and through integrity, once you, I believe personally, once your integrity reaches a certain point, it doesn't matter what society says or what society expects of you, and you can be your full self regardless of who's around you or who accepts you or whatever it may be. And I think that should be like the apex of living life and living life to its fullest. Because if we're here and we're only here for a short amount of time, why waste time trying to adhere to societal standards of being hard or being whatever society at that time defines as masculine? Because, it's the zeitgeist, it's the current, societal expectations. But 50 years ago, it was different. 50 years before that, it's different. And 50 years from now, it'll be different. And so why waste time trying to, become you know, this shape shifting creature that modifies yourself to make other people comfortable? If you have integrity, then you can pretty much move in any environment and be yourself.
Okay.
Good point. Good point. So I know I'm talking about men, but in my upbringing, I'm closer to 50. uh, uh, generation. I saw, men were not allowed to express themselves. Like you said, if you fell down, it was, hurry up and get up, don't cry, move on. You got, so many seconds. Don't show those emotions. You're tough and, go fight and, fight, fight, fight. But at the same time, when we talk about these circles, you know, is it hard for men to open up because they're perceived as being, so strong? And so when you get these circles, or you go into a new field or the military, or, you may get married and you're introduced, to these other families, is it harder to open up? Because it may be a trust issue. It may be, I don't know how this family is going to perceive me, or, if I, say that, man, I was sad, or man, that hurt me, or, if something comes out and, you're showing your tears. Is it hard for men to do it that way?
I think it can be hard at first, but I think, like Marlon said, once you start having that conversation, people realize that, oh, there's other people that are going through it. So now I feel free that I can talk about different things.
Right.
Because for the most part, we're all going through something. There's none of us that's unscathed of what the world has done.
Right.
And with that, even when I'm talking to my father now about different things, he's allowing himself to be more emotional because I'm accepting of his emotions. So sometimes I'll come over his house and we'll sit in the back seat in the backyard and talk about different things and cry. And I know it was difficult for him at first, and it was difficult for me at first to see what he was going to do with that. But it was accepted because he was going through something at that time, and all he needed was somebody to say, I'm going through it with you. Let's go through this. Let's heal together. Let's do these things together so we can be better men for the people that are around us. Because that's who really gets the negative effect of it is the family. Because if we're not allowing it, we're being angry. Anger is a secondary emotion. The underlying emotion is something that we don't want people to know. So we just vent out anger instead of venting out the true emotion that's really, hurting us at that time.
Yeah. I think with that also, there has to be a level of trust before you share those type of feelings with anybody. That's the biggest thing. But also in that too, it's not. I think a lot of the stigma that goes along with what's masculine too is, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I think a lot of women kind of push it on men too. And what I mean is, until there's a level of trust, and most men are not going to express all of their emotion because we know some women don't like men who cry and who are emotional, who have emotional moments. They want their men to be tough and hard all the time. I heard this one guy sharing a story about him and his wife were in the bed and the alarm goes off. And he was saying how for his men, it's like we're not allowed to have access to all of our emotion. So while she can feel fear, while though he may be afraid, he can't show that he's afraid. So, he said he got up, got his gun, went downstairs. While she was in the bed comfortable and she felt safe, he said he was terrified. And I thought about that too. I'm like, man, that's right on point because again, and I tell my wife this, hey, there are things I have not come across. I would love to tell you that I'm going to protect you from any and everything, right? Any animal, anything. But just know my initial reaction may be the same as yours. So don't be, taken aback by, oh man, he a punk, he's scary. Like, no, this is my first time experiencing this. So understand, I'm going to access that emotion. So I hope you don't look at me differently than I'm showing fear in front of you. You know what I'm saying? So with that comes a whole nother level of trust with the woman who looks at you as her protector. And in a particular moment, you're kind of showing yourself to be weak, just like her in that moment.
Like, no, we ain't together.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, there comes a level of trust with people when it comes to dealing with whether it be sadness, whether it be fear, whatever it is. You have to trust people that you're with to be able to express that emotion without worrying about who is going to say what, about you.
So speaking of trust, and you talked about it, in relationships. So, trust is critical in any relationship. But how do you rebuild trust in situations where, say, the spouse or a significant other, may have shared something that, you shared with them and you thought it was, confidential between you and her, and they went off and, blabbed it to their girlfriends or to their mom or something, and you was like, hey, I was trusting you with that information.
Wow.
How do you rebuild that when the trust is broken in that vulnerability moment?
That's difficult because that's I think to a man, and y'all can correct me on this, that's almost like betrayal. Like I told you something in confidence and you go out and tell everybody. Not that you was telling everybody just to say, oh, my man showed me his emotions, but no, my man was weak. Let me tell y'all how weak my man was at this point. A man is going to look at that as almost betrayal, because why would you do that? If we're in this, if we say that we're in this thing together, now one thing that men have to also consider is that women are being taught the same thing that a man are being taught about masculinity. So they're going to take on some of that same thing. And every woman is not ready for emotionally intelligent man. And that's just what it is. I see it all the time in my practice. A couple will come in and they're like, I want you to be more emotional. I want you to be more emotional. The man cries in a session, and she looks at him and like, you're crying over that? Destroyed their relationship. That's a relationship destroyer. And it's hard. It's very hard to build trust back up over that, because you never know when it's going to be used against you. Like, we can be working together and everything is fine, but as soon as I make you upset, are you going to throw that back in my face? Exactly. Oh, you was crying when this was happening. You was doing this when it was happening. Oh, you was acting like a little bee when this was happening. So how do we know? So yeah, that trust can be established, but that's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah. Man, I think I speak for a lot of, let me speak for myself, right? I think this is really big for a lot of Black men. It is hard for us to open up anyway. And the worst thing a woman can do is to share that moment with her girlfriends as like in a joking way or whatever the case may be. And because it's already difficult, it's going to be almost impossible to rebuild that trust when it comes to Black men, because it's already tough, and then I take this moment, and the part that we share with you, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, for me, I'm going to test you. I'm not going to give you the whole pie, right? I'm going to give you a piece of it just to see how you respond. And if you show me you can't be trusted with a piece of it, I'm not giving you the whole. And there's a good chance I'm not going to ever open myself up to you that way again. I'm going to hold it in, or I'm going to go talk to somebody else. I think women have to understand, like, that's the danger, is rebuilding the trust is going to be almost impossible for especially Black men, because like I said, it's already hard enough to share that side of ourselves with anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough situation. That's a rough situation, because if it's used against you and we're supposed to be a team, you're playing for the other team at that point. You're not on my team anymore. I'm not going to throw you the ball. You'll never get the ball again. I can trust you to maybe block, but I don't trust you with the ball anymore. And that's a rough situation to be in.
So, given that same type of scenario, if it's say that significant other, partner, wife, whoever, shared with your mother or father that information, same.
Was it supposed to go to them?
Exactly.
Was it like, right, I have a problem with my mother or father?
That part.
And set that
Right.
up, or is she just like, I'm about to just go tell your parents? Like, it's still a level of betrayal there, no matter who she tells. Because the reason why I say that, and y'all brothers can back me up or correct me on this, I would have told them that. If it was something that I needed to tell them, I have access to them. Matter of fact, I have better access to them than she does. So if she feels like that's something that she needs to tell, she needs to come talk to me first. And then I can go talk to them. But to just go and say, I'm going to talk to them and I don't care how you feel about this, that's one of those things. Now, that can probably be worked on, but that's still a level of betrayal. In my book. I don't want to speak for y'all, brother.
Same here. I think a lot of friends that I have, that's kind of the issue where, they go to their parent and tell their parent everything that's going on within their relationship. And it's like, no, it's me and you. Like, why are you talking to them? It's kind of like, when you're growing up and your parents say, what happens in this house stays in this house. It's kind of like that. Like, this was between me and you. You don't need to tell my mama or my daddy what's going on in our house. If I want them to know, we'll sit down together as a group and let them know, this is what's going on. So yeah,
Now, I mean, there's a caveat to that. If I'm telling her that I'm thinking about hurting myself or I'm thinking about hurting others,
obviously,
yeah, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But if I'm saying, oh, I had a rough day and I need a place to cry, and that goes to the parents, like they're going to accept that as look at it as negative based on how he or she presents it to their parents.
Yeah.
So again, there's caveats with it. If I'm saying I'm suicidal, yeah, tell everybody to get the help I need.
Right.
But if I tell you that I'm tired and I don't know if I can emotionally take this job and I'm crying to you, and you tell that, that's something totally different.
Yeah.
Right.
And speaking
Eric, do
as
you
a
want to add
single,
something? Go ahead.
yeah, speaking as a single man, I would say I have a little more flexibility in the issue because I don't have a significant other or a long-term partner with something already established, routines, patterns, the relationship already established. So I get to pick and choose. And in my selection process, I make sure that they are emotionally mature. That's extremely important to me. Is emotional maturity, and someone who can't be trusted is, or who betrays, in certain ways, they may not have a level of emotional maturity to be my partner. Additionally, when it seems to me, I think a lot of this translates into boundaries and respecting boundaries. And the way I establish my personal boundaries is like concentric circles. So the very innermost circle is for me, and that will always be me, period, the bullseye. Right outside of that is, people, you as you move out into the circles, you get further and further away from my core. So if I trust you to be on the inside, you may have earned it already. Most likely you've earned it. And if you do something to betray that trust, then you just get moved out. But again, like I said, I have flexibility because I don't have a partner that's long term, where I can't as easily move them in and out of those circles, and closer or further from my core. So, but overall, I think it's a boundary issue and a respect issue, and an issue of emotional maturity. And you just have to be selective when choosing a partner.
Yeah. Good point. Yep. So do you feel that men are intimidated to be vulnerable and honest with women?
No.
You said, or men,
No,
what was the word?
I don't think it's intimidation issue.
Not intimidation.
Intimidated. Oh,
There's
intimidated.
no intimidation there. I would say more so we're just very careful, because we understand that the nature of a woman is to talk, right? We all get that. So it's not intimidation. It's more of a, man, can I trust her enough with the information that I want to share, or I feel like I need to share? It really comes down to trust. Are you emotionally mature enough to handle what I want to share with you? And so most men know what, if they've been with anybody for any amount of time, they know if this person's immature or mature. And if we don't see you as mature enough to handle it, we're not going to share anything with you. We may give you bits and pieces, but it's not going to be any detail. So I don't think it's intimidation. It's just more so trust. And really, the trust is really still from a concern of, man, is she going to, like you said before, he said before, are you going to use this against me? If we argue in 2 months from now, are you going to bring this up? Talking about how emotional I was in this moment. So it just comes down to trust and just that concern of it being used against me, down the road.
No, I agree with Marlon there. I don't think it's an intimidation. I think it's more based on the trust factor.
So
Agreed.
would you say it's true that most men or all men just want peace, love, and friendship?
I would say peace, respect, and love, in that order. That's the order I would give. Most men just want peace, man. Like, if we think it's going to bring any kind of drama, we prefer not to even engage in it. This is me. I'm 44 years old. So I would say for me, definitely peace, respect, I think for a lot of uh, black men, I told my wife this: I would much rather have your respect than your love. I'm gonna be honest with you, because you can love somebody you completely disrespect. And for men, we're big on respect, which is why if I was to step on Eric's shoes and I don't know him out in public, the first thing I'm going to do is say, "Hey, man, my fault," because there's going to be their respect, right? Most women step on your shoe, they're not saying nothing to you. Not an excuse me, they keep going because they don't understand that that's how men are wired. We look at you, are you respecting me? And so I would say peace first, respect second, and then love is like a distant third. Because if you respect me, I know that you love me.
That you love me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's my order.
I don't have a particular order. I want all of it.
Right.
I think I think I deserve all of that. I don't think that and I'm not, saying, Marlon, that you're wrong or anything, but I want it all. I want it all because I deserve it all.
Yes.
If I'm giving you what if I'm giving you what you need, then I want what I need as well. And I should be able to ask that. I don't expect anybody to read my mind and know what to give me. I should be able to ask for these things and those things be given if we're in this together.
Yeah.
Now, like Eric was saying, you don't choose somebody that you have to do all this, bargaining with. But if we're in this together, I should be able to tell you this is what I need. I need a shoulder to cry on. I need to be respected. I need to be this. Because if I'm doing my best to give you what you're telling me you need, I need that same thing in return without judgment,
Yeah.
without, trying to see one up each other. It's just what I need. And if you can't give it to me, say that so we can be like, okay, this is not going to work. But I don't think that men should be tiptoeing around what we need. And I see a lot of that. I see a lot of men tiptoeing around what they need simply by the phrase, happy wife, happy life. That should not even be a thing. I get it, but if it's being used to only make sure that, the woman is happy, then we're in a bad relationship anyway. Only way that I'm happy is if she's fully happy. Nah, I need to be happy as well.
Miserable.
So let's be happy spouse and have a happy house.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would
someone
agree.
said
I would
happy
say
spouse, happy cow.
happy spouse, happy house. I would agree with the gentleman. For me, peace, respect, those are high values. But I think if we're talking about, specifically in relationships and specifically a woman trying to find out what, what her man wants, you have to ask the question. Um, and vice versa. You have to ask and communicate, what is it that makes you feel safe? What is it that makes you feel like you can be vulnerable in this space? And that should be, I mean, that's kind of bottom line basic. It should be, a baseline thing that you establish.
I can barely hear you, Eric.
He went back on mute.
Can y'all hear?
Okay.
Well, basically, I was
Yes,
agreeing with
yes.
you. I was agreeing with you. I was saying that
Okay, I can hear you now.
to establish communication, first off, for me personally, peace and respect are important. But secondarily, every relationship is different. And I got to be honest, being completely honest and being vulnerable, feeling safe in this space. I don't like to talk about relationships in public forums because everyone is so totally different. And there's so many dynamics. There are power dynamics that come into play. There's trauma. There's mental health. There's everything, and there's cultural differences, right? And so there's so many dynamics. I don't really like talking about it, but what I would say is, as a basic bottom line factor, ask a question. Ask that person what makes them feel safe and what makes them feel like they can be vulnerable. So yeah, you have to establish that as a baseline and communicate. If you don't have that basic level of communication, you probably should find another partner. Again, speaking as a single person that, has options.
Yep, agree. Yep. So speaking of trauma, You know, we all come from different backgrounds. We were all raised differently. So when we speak of trauma, whether it was a childhood trauma, and then you're also dealing with just being a Black man in today's society, trauma, you know, how, yes, we have these groups and these therapy, but how do you reach someone who has been through that and experienced that? How do you I don't want to say comfort them, but know that it's a safe space for them, you know, to share their trauma with you on a personal level. And it can just be, you know, one of your guy friends or a coworker or, you know, something.
I say, think, well, what I've learned, right, is people will share when they're ready. I think the
Mhm.
worst thing to do is to try to convince somebody to share with you,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to different types of trauma. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of folks may not ever share, you know, certain traumas with anybody.
Mhm.
And not saying that that's healthy, but I think to try to push or convince somebody to do so, I think is they're not going to trust you, right? If you are trying to get me to share different traumas with you, I'm red flag automatically. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
why are you so interested? Number one,
Mhm.
and who are you trying to tell? Like, are you going to
Mhm.
use this information
Against me.
against me? I'm going to be very
Mhm.
suspicious about it. So, um, so that's one aspect. So another one I would say is, man, just really just be there. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, really show whoever it is, like, you are a genuine friend. And I think with
Mhm.
time, people will share. They'll open up about certain things when they know they can trust you with certain information.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, it's sad to say that in this day and age, it's hard to find true friends. And so when you do find true friends or a true friend or whatever, and you know, man, I can tell this person anything and I know it's going to stay between us. Um, then eventually that person will get to a place where they like I said, they want to share with you. But I don't
Mhm.
think you can, just my opinion, I don't think you can really, if they're not looking for therapy, it's going to be hard to share that. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
So really quick for me, so I was diagnosed with PTSD, military trauma, Iraq War, and it took a friend of mine who saw he recognized something I did, right?
Mhm.
Um, I didn't think anybody saw me. I pulled out a knife on the guy because I didn't know why he was walking up to us, and he saw
Mhm.
me do it, and he was like, "Dude, we need to talk." He's like, "Man, listen, I was the same way. You need to talk to somebody." And
Mhm.
every time I saw this dude, hey man, you call my therapist. You call my therapist. And then one day he's like, you know what, man? I know you need help. I tell you what, I'm gonna call her for you right
Mhm.
now, and I'm gonna get you an appointment. And that's
Mhm.
what he did for me. But even in
Mhm.
that, it took me a few sessions to start to open up
Mhm.
about what really happened.
Mhm.
But I trusted him. You know what I'm saying? Like him was
Mhm.
really cool. I trusted him
Right.
enough that he's telling me that therapy worked for him. Man, and because of that relationship, then I was more open to therapy because he had shared with me how it's helped him.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
my story.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
I agree with you on that one because you have to find that. You have to invite people to share those things, not try to motivate them to
Right.
do it because
Right.
people have to come to it when they're ready.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As a therapist, once I know that the person is really not ready for therapy, even though they called and reached out, but they're just not able to go there,
Mhm.
there's no judgment there. I understand it. But when they're ready, I'll be ready to receive it.
Mhm.
Because again, you can't just push it. I can't tell Marlon, oh, you need to go to therapy
Right.
because you tripping. What does that really mean?
Mhm.
Right.
Like, what does that really mean?
Mhm.
So it has to be up to the individual person to feel comfortable enough to start sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And sometimes all it takes is a person sharing their
Their struggle.
struggles.
Mhm.
And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, you're going through it too.
Right.
Oh, okay. Now I can start talking to you. What do you think?
Mhm.
Well, my therapist said this.
Mhm.
Huh. Let me try some of those things and see how they work for me. And then if they start to work, then I can reach out and
Right.
find a therapist for myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So speaking about therapy, Heath, I want to dive into just if you have a friend that may be suicidal, um, uh, you know, are there signs? I know there was Trench, the celebrity dancer or whatever you call him, just out of the blue. Seemed like he had a great life. You have friends and
Right.
families that, they have this great life. Everything seems fine. And then out of the blue, they commit suicide, whether they're successful or not. So how do
Yeah.
you, is, I don't want to say signs because obviously there are no signs, but what can we do to help,
Man,
men?
one of the things that we can do is start reaching out to the strong friends. Reach out to those friends that it looks like they have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like what happens is people get on Facebook or Instagram and reach out to people. Nah, go try to get their number.
Mm-hmm.
Try to reach out in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give them a call
Mm-hmm.
and just ask them, man, how you doing?
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of pain behind a lot of laughter.
exactly.
And we saw that with Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was into just making sure
Yes,
everybody
what's
else was
happening? Yeah.
good, but he probably never had anybody to see if he was okay. Because why wouldn't he be okay? He's
Right.
making sure everybody
What
else
else
is
is
okay.
happening?
But yeah, we have to check on our strong friends.
Yeah.
And if we are the strong friend, we need to find somebody that's willing to check in on us. Because probably in most cases, we are the strong friends. So nobody is like checking on you.
Right.
Nobody is calling Heath the therapist because Heath is a therapist. So Heath knows everything that's going on. So Heath is good.
Right.
And I can be struggling, but nobody is going to call because I'm the strong friend. So we need to start checking on those folks that seem like they have it all together. And it's not about money. Money doesn't make you have it all together. It's not about the fame. It's not about any of that because we all have those struggles. Some of us have PTSD from things that happened before the money,
Right.
before the fame that we hadn't dealt with. Some of us are dealing with things that are derived from the fame, the schedules, the constant having to perform, the constant this, the constant that. Sports people have struggles all the time, but are they allowed to say, I need a day off? I need a mental health day off on a Sunday? Hell no. Because as fans, we don't care.
Right.
We want to see you play football. We want to see you, dunk. We don't care that you just lost somebody. We didn't care. We didn't care about Dak Prescott, his brother killing himself, committing suicide.
Right.
We didn't care. We wanted him to play good. You need to be able to deal with that on your own time. You're an entertainer for us. And I'm pretty sure not a lot of people even called to see if he was good from that. But those people need the same help that us less famous or less rich people need. So we got to just start checking on those strong friends.
Anybody want to add to that?
I mean, I agree. I can admit I'm bad. I'm horrible when it comes to asking somebody how they're doing, and you hear a response, but you're not really listening. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say it in passing, how you doing? I'll keep walking. And not really taking the time to hear what a person is saying, because they may not be doing well, but because I'm moving so quick, they may say, "Well, I'm good. You're not gonna stop anyway." So it's like you said, man. Just taking the time out, man, to really check on people and to show that you are concerned. I think, and my lowest state, I was about to commit suicide. I had the gun in my head, everything when I was in Iraq. Thankfully, of course, that didn't happen. But I just wanted somebody to ask me, "Hey, man, are you okay?"
Right.
Like I wanted that so badly. Like the days after I had that moment, and nobody ever did. But I understood it's because I was great at showing, like, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Everybody assumed that I'm good because I'm laughing. Nothing really changed. But I can truly say, man, I just wanted one person to just stop and ask me, "Man, how are you doing?" It's so concerning. And I was ready to tell them, hey, man, I was about to kill myself the other night, but nobody ever did, man. So definitely, for sure, check on those people who you think have everything together and everything looks good and everything. That's what they're doing. Everything every time is great. Those are the ones we definitely should be checking on. Yeah, for sure.
And even when they say I'm good, have a follow-up question. No, seriously, how you doing?
Yeah.
And then that'll like, oh man, he's seriously asking me. Because we get asked that all the time. We get into an elevator. Hey, how's your day going? They don't care. They just want us to say, oh, good, the weather there. They don't really care. So we're programmed to not care about what people are really saying. But if it's a good friend, follow it up with, nah, how you really doing?
Yeah.
Nah, you can talk to me. Let's talk. And then have that conversation go. Now, I'm not expecting anybody to be like, oh, here is everything, because there's that testing process, but you have to ask. You have to ask because you don't want anybody to say nobody asked. Nobody really cares about me.
Yeah.
That's a lonely feeling.
Yeah.
That's a lonely feeling when you're reaching out to everybody. You're out in the community doing your thing. You're making sure everybody else is good. And then you realize and sit down by yourself and like, nobody really cares about me. I don't want anybody to feel like that.
Yeah.
So I always ask people, how they're doing. Now, of course, I'm a therapist, so I ask, it's easy for me to ask somebody, are you suicidal? That's not an easy thing for most people to ask. So I know it's easier for me. But we have to start asking those people that we're close to, those people that we love, how are you really doing? Even our children, we need to dig deeper when we're asking them how they're doing. And just be straight up, like, what's going on in school? Oh, everything is good. Nah, tell me what's going on. Any bullies, any anxiety, any depression, how's class going, any struggles? Because they're watching us not be vulnerable, so they don't think being vulnerable is good. So we're just passing that on, and we can break that. We can be the generation to break that if we truly want to be. And I plan on breaking that in my family, and I have. So me and my children, we have those conversations. How you doing? Oh man, it was rough. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
To my male children, and they don't have a problem with it because they have been conditioned now to answer those questions. So we have those questions, and we should keep having those questions.
I think too, I started, go ahead, Eric.
I would say the only thing I have to add to that, because that was very comprehensive what the gentleman said, is looking at how we socialize today. Sometimes it can be an illusion that we are checking on people and that we are active in people's lives, but we're not having meaningful engagement or meaningful check-ins. Just like that, how are you, I'm good type thing. But we're so involved in people's lives from a distance with social media. We know everything that's going on about a person except for their most feelings. So I think having meaningful check-ins and meaningful engagements is important. So I think adding levels of intensity to that instead of just being, oh, they look like they're doing well. I saw they went to Paris, or they went to Jamaica, or they did this or that. Or I think that they went on a cruise. They must be doing great. But really adding the meaningfulness behind that, because there's an illusion that we're involved in people's lives when we're really not.
Yes, and I want to thank Marlon for sharing that piece of life with us. So I also I started this year what I call my Sunday roll call. And I literally go and I call everybody in my phone, family, friends, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What'd you do this week?
Wow.
And definitely
Beautiful.
getting those, not just like how you doing? And they're like, oh good. Like you said, it's normal. Oh, okay, I'm good. But asking those open-ended questions, well, what'd you do? And, what was the weather? Yes. And, things that are going on in the world and, like how you really, really doing, and whether it be a 10-minute phone conversation or an hour and a half, with your auntie, but just checking in and letting them know, hey, I'm gonna be calling you every Sunday, and if you don't pick up the phone, I'm gonna text you.
No, that's
Yeah.
good.
And it's funny because I called my aunt and she said, well, you missed last week. She said, what happened? I was about to call you. And I said, yes, ma'am. But see, they're
Good.
getting
Yeah,
used
That's
to
good. That's
it.
that's
beautiful.
awesome, man.
Yes, they're
That's
getting
so
used
awesome.
to it. Like, hey, we're not in the same state. We don't see each other every single day, but I'm here for you guys. If you need something, let me know. And I think
Hmm.
that's a good
And then
start.
another thing, Nikki, that we have to add to that, we have to even allow people to check on us.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
again, if we're the strong friend,
Right.
sometimes people be like, "Oh, Nikki's checking on everybody. She must be good."
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you also got to have somebody checking in on you,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's okay.
Mhm. Yep.
So we have to allow that. We have to allow some of the things that we're doing for others,
Mhm.
because a lot of people that I talk to feel like it's their job to keep everybody else good,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
won't even accept, the love back.
Mhm.
They're like, nah, I'm
Yep.
good. This is
Yep.
not about me. This is about you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it can be about you as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not, we don't have to, be this, I'm making sure everybody else is good. I'm carrying everybody else on my back
Mhm.
and nobody's
Checking on
checking
me.
on me. We have to allow that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Definitely.
Another thing, I think when we're looking about generational things, and I think we have to give our parents a little
Mhm.
grace, because what I'm figuring out by talking to my father and talking to his older sister and getting background
Mhm.
information is that my grandparents parents, my great grandparents were trying to survive.
Right.
Like, we're just trying to survive.
Mhm.
My grandfather was, I'm trying to give you a place to live so you can survive, and let me
Right.
do this, make sure that you eat. You're like, if you're eating, you're good. Don't
Right.
complain about a damn thing
Right.
as long as you got something to eat.
Right.
My father, his thing was, oh, we didn't have a secure house, so I'm going to make sure that you have a
Understood.
secure house so you don't have to worry about being homeless.
Mhm.
But I'm like, what about the emotion?
Yeah.
We don't give a damn about your emotion. We
Mhm.
just want to make sure that you have a stable house to live in and have the fundamental makeup to make it in this world.
Mhm.
So now we're the generation that can add emotions to that.
Mhm.
We can have all those things and then say, you know what, we're going to allow our children to be emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
not going to live off of our children. And I'm talking about in sports,
Mhm.
where we like, I didn't make it in sports, so I'm about to live on it through you. And
Mhm.
I don't care if it emotionally hurts you. We're not saying this, of course,
Mhm.
but I know a lot of people in the NFL that don't even want to be playing.
Mhm.
They don't even want to play,
Mhm. Yep.
but they have a lot of people that's depending on them. So they can't even say that this is emotionally draining for me. They can't. They're not allowed to do it. But we
Mhm.
can be that generation and that next generation that can say emotions are good, emotions are fine. And we need to have more than anger as an emotion.
Mhm.
There's a lot of emotions that lie up under that anger that we need to allow us to have. Whether it's, I'm embarrassed,
Mhm.
that's a crazy emotion, because I know a lot of people that have went to prison because they was embarrassed
Yeah.
about something that happened.
Mhm.
And instead of just saying I'm embarrassed and walking away, they said, I'm going to stab this person.
Mhm.
This particular person got 32 years in prison because somebody stepped on his shoes. They wasn't respectful, like Marlon said. He was embarrassed because other people laughed, and his way of dealing with it was to stab the guy.
Mhm. Wow.
32 years of his life because of that.
Wow.
So we have to allow those other emotions to be okay, and we don't have to respond to them. We don't have to live on our emotions,
Mhm.
but we can let them flow through us and then go on with our lives.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Awesome. Awesome.
Heath, that has me thinking about when you talk about survival and generations, what about former generations that actually had money or weren't actively working to survive every day, living check to check? And I may be wrong. You're definitely the expert, but I would imagine that they had a lower emotional maturity and psychological, like awareness of psychological conditions as well. I think as we progress forward and as we learn more, and also as information becomes more widespread, we're learning more about the human condition and who we are. And that, I think that creates opportunity for acceptance too. So just like you said, I think we can be the generation, because we have access to this information and we're able to learn and be ourselves. And a lot of the conversations we're having, it kind of limits men. You know, men are afraid to do this, or men don't feel like we can or we can't. You know, all these things. As an individual, and this is just speaking for me, I don't limit myself to any expectations of society, right? So if I want to be vulnerable with somebody, I do evaluate first if I can trust them, right? And if I can't, you just don't get that part of me, right? I'm gonna just give it to somebody else, maybe my therapist, or maybe my best friend of 25 years, or whatever it is. But I try not to limit myself and hold any emotional turmoil in because of some societal expectation, because again, I've defined being a man for myself. I think that's important, is that we take back our power and don't give it to some societal norm that's only unique to our region, our country, and our time, right? We make it our own because we only get one shot.
Man, that's good, sir. I think with that being said too, um, so the grooves in our brain, they are cut in our brains through our experience. So I think for black men, I think because of the generations, we've gone back all the way to slavery, up until to this point, they were never allowed to show emotion. So of course, if I'm not allowed to show emotion, I'm going to teach the next generation the same thing, because that's how I was taught. I can only teach you what I know, right? And so I think for a lot of us who have a hard time expressing emotion, I don't think it's so much as like the expectation of societal norms. I think it's just really a stronghold. If you've been taught something for so long, it's really hard to break that way of thinking. This is what it is, because the grooves in our brain have been cut, and they've been cut through experience. So of my experience from the ages of, time I could walk until I was, for me, my military day, he was talking about 30 plus years of being trained almost, whether it be parents not really understanding the emotional awareness side of it, as well as the military. So for me, I got 30 plus years of being taught, hey, ain't no crime, right? Nah, man, soldier up. You know what I'm saying? So now, my late 30s into my 40s, it's understanding that emotions are not bad. But I have 30 years where I was taught emotions are bad. So for me, it's not really the societal norms that's put on us as men. It's more so trying to break the stronghold and break the cycle of that way of thinking, so I don't pass this way of thinking on to my children. You know what I'm saying? So it's really like learning. Like I said, when you don't have a good example, you have to learn on your own almost. And so now society is kind of more talking about mental health awareness, so on and so forth. People feel more comfortable expressing that side of themselves, but it took us a while to even get to this point. So, it's just really, like I said, for me, I think for a lot of black men too, for me, it's just really a stronghold, not what people expected of me. It's just the way that I was taught and the way I was trained through the military. I was not allowed to express every emotion that came through, my thought. So just learning, man, that, hey, being vulnerable is okay. And then trying to make sure that my sons and my daughters understand it's okay to be vulnerable. It's like, so just teaching them they don't have to be that way.
That actually, to me,
and I think it's a learned behavior. It's definitely a learned behavior that's passed down. Because I remember my mother telling me a story that when she was young, she was picking cotton with the rest of the family, and a mule, her uncle was behind a mule, and a mule kicked him in the head and killed him. They didn't allow the people that were sharecroppers to have a mental health day because of that. They dragged them off out of the cotton field and said, let's keep on going because money needs to be made. So if that is something that you're brought up in, you're going to learn that even if I see death on that level, I don't even supposed to react to it. I need to become numb to it. So if that is being taught, and it's not like there's a book that that our parents are being like, oh, here's this, this, and that. But they're like, in order to survive in this world, you can't let people know what you're going through. You can't express emotions. We're taught that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
From football, we're taught that. We're taught that anger is good on the football field. Being happy on the football field is not really that good because you got to act like you've already been there. You can't cry. You can get hurt because that's part of football, but you're not supposed to cry about it. You just need to limp off the field and get ready and tie it up and go back in. So these are things that we're taught over and over and over in different circles that our brain synapses start to make that connection in every situation. So when we're learning different things, we have to retrain our mind to be like, oh, this is okay for me to feel this way. This is okay. Because again, most of us, I'm not saying all of us, most of us have had a upbringing where we weren't allowed to be emotional. Or if you cry, let me give you something to cry about.
Right.
Or if you are allowed to cry, go to your room and cry. We don't do that out here.
Right.
You know, so if these are things that we're taught, then we have to relearn a different way. And that's possible. It's definitely possible for us to learn a different way. And that's why we have to help remove the stigma so people can start to learn and be okay with sharing emotions.
I think the things you named, whether it be military or football or, you know, with your family, those are all still societal norms. And those societal norms or systems or whatever you want to call them. So I think we should start evaluating the systems. What is the system of the military that teaches us that? The systemic issues in sports that teaches us that. I don't think it's a problem that we can't solve. We have to start unraveling these things and recognizing that these are parts of our society and how we socialize with each other, and they're systemic and they're ingrained. How do we start unraveling and pulling these things apart as men who have realized, because we do learn and we develop our thought patterns based on that, your neurotransmitters and all the things, you develop thought patterns that lead to a certain result, right? You get an input and you get the same output, but we've learned to change that trajectory. So how do we now change these wider systems that have led to those patterns of thought? Maybe that falls on us as the men who've come through.
Yeah, and I just want to add, so I married young and I divorced young, and my ex-husband was military, and so I know about the PTSD, and you know when you're in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, and having to kill kids or kill people that may appear friendly to you, and then just coming back home, to that. I think, a lot of people don't understand, like, I have to deal with this every day. I can't show emotion. I can't cry after I shoot somebody or kill somebody, and that's why they, get, they may get the bottle or, different things like that, or be suicidal and, very angry because, they were taught to hold in their emotions. And I think Marlon is speaking on some things that I can relate to, PTSD and just having, those moments where it's generational. And, growing up, we were taught, to hold it in. And like Eric said, we have to kind of, reprogram our brains, to get through it, or to make it better for the next generation. And it can be hard for some people, because they did this all their lives. They got into the military at 18, and they're not getting out until their 40s. So they did this all their life, and they're trained. And it may be hard for some people to let go of that. And that's, therapy is very important. I think therapy, should start very early, for those that have kids or want kids. I think, the individual therapy, family therapy should start, very, very early. There's a lot of generational trauma that we all experience, coming up. Um, even I have one. I was sharing with with a cousin of mine, and I was like, remember that day? We got out of school and then my dad whooped me, and she was like, yes, because he whooped me in front of everybody, all because I didn't, clean this red spatula. And I had trauma from that red spatula. Like, I never want to see a red spatula in my life. Like, it was so traumatizing. And now you go to the grocery store and you see that red spatula, and you're just like, you know. But it could be a little simple thing as that, brings back those traumatizing experiences. Back then, we were spanked and we got whoopings, and now it's frowned upon, and a lot of parents don't do that. It's a punishment, or taking away whatever electronics or whatever their kids thing is. And so I think too, we have to look at those generations, and like you said, having those conversations with the older generations, and making them see, like, I know you didn't know at the time. Like you said, we were in survival mode. So this is all we had. There was no book, there was no, you know, um, training manual, on how to do this. And so we, respect them in those ways, and give them grace, for those times. Yeah. Yeah.
I would also say,
And we also have to be ready to have those conversations with our children, because we're teaching some things that are good for us, but may not transfer well to them. So we have to be open that when they come to us and say, mom, dad, whatever, I feel this way and that way, we have to be okay with, apologizing and having that conversation, and not just simply saying, oh, I kept you alive. You didn't die, did you? Like, we got to be better than that as parents. Right. We have to sit there and have that conversation, because again, there is no training manual. I mean, it would be lovely if every baby came out with their own individual, tag to say, this is how you take care of it. But we don't. Right. We don't have it. We're having children when we're, 20, 21, when we barely know what life is. Right. We just got out of high school, and now we're like, okay, we're grown and start having children. Right. And a lot of us aren't really prepared, for it. Yep. We get more and more prepared, and we can always see it with the youngest child, because it's like, oh, we done messed up them first.
Right. We've been through it. Yeah.
Let's get this one straight.
Right.
yeah. I would also
exactly.
say, the first two is like, why come you ain't getting beat? Yeah. Why come you ain't getting this done? Right. You're like, yeah, we messed up, y'all. Yeah. We're gonna do right by this one.
So personally, I have a rebellious heart. And I have to say that when you mention the systems that pigeonhole our men into these behaviors and these thought processes and patterns, my first thought is get rid of those systems. If there's a system of war that's sending our young men to be traumatized, let's change that. It's barbaric anyway. And I may be in the wrong room because I'm an activist by nature. But I'm telling you that I do not agree with that. My manhood and this is my protective factor as a man. This is how my emotion comes out as a man, is if the system is harming our children and then harming our men, change the system, get rid of it. And so if it's a system is war, if the system is football, we can do without football. We can change it. Rugby is even safer than football because they have better tackling practices. So why can't we make changes? And, our society tells us we got to watch football on Sunday. It has to be American football, but rugby is way safer. We can protect our children if we switch. But I'm a rebellious heart, and I'm all about,
No, I'm with you, Eric.
Justice. So,
my children was in the band.
Fix it. Just fix it, because we can't continue to traumatize our men and then blame them for not being vulnerable and not showing emotion and not feeling safe. We can't do it because now we're boxed in on every side. And maybe it's up to us men who have done the work and come through to make the change. That's all I got.
I'm with you, Eric. My children, they was in the band because I know, what that breeds. So I'm with you. I'm ready to do the work. Yeah.
Yep. So I think we had a question in the audience. They were, what are some things that make men feel safe? And I feel like we briefly talked about it, but if anybody wants to add to that, we can.
Man, what makes men feel safe? That's a difficult question. For me, I just know, right? I know if I can trust you. So me knowing that I can trust you makes me feel safe, and I can trust you with anything. It makes me feel safe. If there's any doubt, if there's any questions, then I'm not going to feel. I'm not going to feel that. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a matter of really showing that man that you can be trusted. That's the bit that. Listen, if y'all got nothing else for this, man, you got to show people that they can trust you. It's like this, right? So in the military, I have a secret clearance. Okay, that means I have access to certain information, right? You get a secret, you got a top secret clearance. So whatever your clearance level is determines what level of access you have to whatever information, right? Classified information. So with the clearance, though, there has to be a background check. And when I said, I mean like a there is a thorough background check done. They call people you know from 10 years back for secret clearances. For top secret, I think it's like 15 years. People you lived in, like went to school with, they actually call those people. They interview those people all about you. What they're doing is they're trying to find out, can we trust this person with this level of information? That's all they want to know. So they go back so far to determine, has this person been consistent? You know what I'm saying? Like, have they been consistently trustworthy? And so that's why they go back so far. So if anything, showing the man that you can be trusted, that means for any conversation. That means if y'all argue, you're not running back and telling your mama or telling his mama or whatever. Like, of course, if he ain't talking about killing you or killing himself, it needs to stay. It needs to stay in the house. Basically, what I'm saying. So once a man knows that he can trust you with an argument, with the vulnerable conversation, with just any conversation, then he will feel safe around you to be able to share whatever emotion he's feeling at that particular time. But until a man trusts you, he's not really going to feel safe when it comes to certain conversations.
Eric, I see you over there thinking. You want to add to that?
No, I think that relates to our previous conversation about how men can be people that other men can come to. And I think it's just having that integrity, that trustworthiness. I think that's the basis of a lot of what we're discussing with safety. You have to be trustworthy in order for someone to feel safe in your presence. And that's on every level, even children, right? If you're inconsistent with children, then they will feel less safe. If you're inconsistent with people, they feel less safe. So you have to be a person of your word, be consistent, and have integrity, and then we can trust you. Yeah.
Y'all brothers summed it up.
Awesome. Yep. So we got one more. Do you all think pride plays a factor when trying to be vulnerable with others?
I think it can play some part in it. If a person have so much pride that they're, feel like they have to have this certain, machismo, then they more than likely probably won't be vulnerable. So yeah, pride can take the negative pride, because sometimes pride is viewed as a whole negative thing, but there's some positivity in having pride as well. But the negative pride that nobody can know what's going on with me. Yeah, that's why we have a high percentage of suicide in men because of that pride.
Yeah, I would say that one of the goals for me as a man in crafting who I am in my framework is to find a medium, like a middle ground. There's a great poem by Rudyard Kipling, and the whole poem is about moderation, right? Like if you can take both praise and criticism and treat those two imposters as the same, right? So it's taking you from one extreme, from either extreme, and putting you in the middle. And so you can't be too prideful, but you also can't be too humble, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be somewhere in the middle. And that moderation, I think in that moderation is where you find a man of integrity, a man of passion, a man of kindness and empathy and all the things, and the complete man, just in my perspective.
So, real quick question. Do you think men could be vulnerable or feel like they have a safe space at work with their colleagues?
No. It's not gonna be a lot of colleagues they feel safe with. At least for me, no. There's nobody on my job. Well, I'll take it back. There's one older gentleman that I would trust, that I
Mm-hmm.
trust with information about myself, right? Because we have that relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, especially with everybody being remote, it's kind of hard to develop those relationships like that,
Right.
right now or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you can have it. But even in that though, the fear would be, they're going to use this against me.
Against me,
If
right?
there's a promotion that comes up, are they going to use it against me down the road? So
Mm-hmm.
it's, for me, I find it to be a lot tougher to find somebody at work that I feel, safe around to share certain information with.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Mm-hmm.
my experience, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you feel like race
I mean, my
plays a
experience is
part in
different.
that too?
Say again?
Do you feel like race plays a part in that too? Your white colleagues versus your black colleagues?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, yeah. Yeah, it does. It does.
Mine is a little different because I when I was working for a company, it was around other therapists. So it was that thing that we would have to bond together, to deal with what we're dealing with. However, I don't seek vulnerability at work anywhere. I don't look
Right.
at people that I work with as my family.
Mm-hmm.
When they say, "Oh, we're a family
Yeah.
here and we're gonna take care of you," I don't, follow that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So I never sought it out, but in the therapy world, it's probably a little different because we're looking at high acuity things and
Mm-hmm.
we're just trying to survive ourselves. So we're, having, a lot of dark humor, a lot of, vulnerability in that. But it's different. It's different than most workplaces.
You know what? Let me correct something, right? Let me correct something. Race plays a part for me
Mm-hmm.
where I am now. In the
Mm-hmm.
military, it didn't play a part, mainly because we all pretty much experience the same type of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt a
Yeah.
lot safer sharing it with the guys on my team who I went to war with, no matter what race they are.
Right.
Because I understood I can trust them and they knew they could trust me. But it's because we all were experiencing the same thing. So just where I am now, being a civilian, no longer in the military, it's a little tougher to find
Mm-hmm.
those people. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I did work for a
Do you want to
company,
add anything?
yeah, when I did work for a company, I would say I work with children, and so we did adhere to the language of a family and that type of thing, but not a true family, not a complete family, but
Mm-hmm.
we had some aspects because we had to take care of these kids together. And so we had to have shared values. We had to have great communication, and we had to be able to depend on each other and trust each other. So there's certain levels of trust. But I didn't bring my personal into the workplace. And I kept that a mystery, not in a deceptive way, but in a, personal. I just kept it personal and private. And other people did the same, but we had a different level of trust as far as the kids we took care of.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. We're about at an hour and 15. And I would just want to take this moment to thank you guys again for joining me on this very special
Thank you for having us.
episode.
Yeah,
I
I
think
appreciate it.
people will listen, take note, and reach out to you guys in the community and have those conversations, as we say, courageous conversations. Um, so if you have anything coming up, events or anything in the community, please share those now so that people can reach out to you guys and participate in those things that you may have coming up. So,
October 7th, Man and Me is having a men's talk. We're going to be talking about developing positive habits. It's going to be on 6622-290, East 290 at 10 o'clock. I know that there's a lot of people that's going to try to be watching the game, but this is important. Come out, and this is a safe space for Black men to have a conversation about developing positive habits. We've been doing this since February or March. It's been a beautiful thing. Food will be served, light food. Like don't come with a plate. But food will be served, and it's a safe space. Men are allowed to talk, confidential. No, hopefully nobody is going out, telling anybody else's business. But everybody is saying that they're not. So it's a good place to fellowship and have a brotherhood.
awesome.
You have like a Zoom link or something?
I didn't hear you.
You have like a Zoom link or something like that? Or is it going to be just in person only?
No, it's in person. It's in
All right.
person. You can reach out to me and I can send you the flyer. I don't know if you saw the flyer, Nikki, on
Yes.
on Facebook.
I can share it with you.
If you can send that out, yeah, if you can share that, that'll be great.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for me, I don't have anything going on like in the community or anything like that. Just my Pandemonium. I just completed my 8th episode. So that was the first season. I am in a process of revamping and my plan is to start the second season at the beginning of November. It is at True Pandemonium on YouTube, True Pandemonium on Instagram, as well as TikTok. True Pandemonium 21 on TikTok. All right, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like all that good stuff, and thank you so much. I appreciate being a part of this discussion.
Yeah, beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I second Heath with the Man in Me. Please, for all the men that are listening and watching, the Man in Me is a great resource. It's a great way to express yourself, to learn how to be a better father. And you can't beat it. You can't beat it. So definitely tune into the Man in Me. Also, the Black Professional Alliance is a place for professionals to come together, and the Black Professional Alliance of Austin to come together and collaborate, to network, and to see other Black people. Our population in Austin is dwindling. It's the only ethnic population that's actually going down as the city gets bigger. So we want to find each other. So BPA of Austin on Instagram, bpaofaustin.org. Get signed up for our newsletter, follow us on IG, and stay tuned. Also, I would say take time to yourself, figure out what your avenue for expression is, whether it be talking to a friend on a regular basis, talking to a therapist. Don't keep it in. It's there, nothing. Just get it out. It's your right as a human to express yourself.
Right. And follow that up. You can choose how you interact and react with the world. That's where your power is at. What Eric is saying is that we can change those systems. We can choose how we want to interact and react in the world. That's where the true power is at. And again, Nikki, thank you for allowing us this space to come on and help remove, the stigmas of being vulnerable, of, sharing your emotions, of all of it. It's definitely a conversation that needs to continue. And I'm down for that conversation. And let's keep it going.
Awesome. I was going to say maybe you can go on Marlon's podcast and have another discussion. And maybe that can be a future conversation
I'll be open to that.
for you guys.
Okay,
Awesome.
yeah,
But
with it.
Yes. So I appreciate you guys again. Thank you so much. I see you guys in the community. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you guys in the community. And I appreciate you guys for coming on and sharing your stories and your thoughts and giving advice to those who may not ask for it. And again, I see you guys. And I want you to know that I appreciate you guys. If no one else says it, I appreciate you guys. So again, thank you again, and have a good night. Make sure you press the end button when you leave.
Thank you so much.
All right, y'all be good.
Have a good one.
Good meeting y'all.
Y'all take care.
Bye bye.